we're not willing to compromise like our expectations. We hold people accountable, and I hate to, it's not a bad thing. Like it's good if we let people just run amok, like it's not going to work. And so I think being a good boss is you got to hold people accountable, and
Could line up a dozen shop owners and probably have 11 out of 12 stories about how they tried to work with the person for 9 months, 2 years at the detriment of their own business. And when you're hurting your own business, you're not just hurting your business. Welcome to another episode of the Garage Grit Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Herlock, a co-owner of AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company specifically for repair shops nationwide. And today we've got Kyle with us from Helena Import Repair. And Kyle, thank you for coming on the podcast, ready to share your story. Kyle and I've chatted a little bit before this episode and a couple of conversations prior to today. And I'm looking forward to hearing his story or sharing his story with you. I'm looking forward to talking about not just the last 3 years, but even before that, right? And so, Kyle, thank you for the show. Thank you for coming on.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. Sorry. So, Kyle, why don't you real quick give us a synopsis of where your shop is currently? Where are you at today? What do you've got going on? And tell us a little bit about the population, like the surrounding area, as well as the size of your shop, the number of employees. Have at it.
Yeah. So I'm Kyle Northrop. I own Helena Import Repair, Helena, Montana. We're a town of about 30,000 people, give or take, last census, and probably, I would say 50,000-ish in the surrounding areas. There's some surrounding towns. Um, yeah, I started this company in 2016. I hated working for the dealer. I'd moved out here and um, got a job at a local dealership, and just I don't the typical dealership story. Like we didn't like working there and wanted to do something else. And so as soon as I had an opportunity, I took it and I opened up a little tiny shop and started making my way. I had one bay, no lift, working on my back. For yeah.
What were you doing? What did you do for the dealership?
So I was a Honda Master Tech, and what I didn't know, I guess, back then was it's hard to find Master Techs out here. Um, to get to that level, you have to go to the factory school a bunch of times. I was fortunate enough in California to be an hour away. So it was French Camp, California, and I was in Sacramento. So it was an hour long trip, and I got to go a lot. And towards the end, I wanted to get that status. And so when the dealership wouldn't take me, I kind of talked to the head instructor into letting me come down on my days off. We were 410s. So you get that extra day in the week. And I was like, hey, can I come down and finish this stuff up? I want to get my master, status or whatever. So I did that. And then, yeah, I don't know. We got tired I got personally tired of California and the politics and all the taxes and high gas prices and whatever. And I wanted to raise my kids somewhere else where it was a little nicer. So I had two young ones at the time. Now they're teenagers and doing their own thing. Yeah, it
And that
was a
happens
little
fast,
rough.
huh?
Yeah, it was really fast. Yeah, it happened really
So
fast.
so you moved out to where you're at now with
Yeah.
whole family.
Yep. Yeah, I actually originally went to Kalispell, Montana, and I worked for a Honda dealer there. And yeah, I answered a Craigslist ad way back in the day when Craigslist was still big. I think I had typed in, you know, Master Tech or something in the job thing, and it was like here or like Indianapolis or something. And two dealers were looking. So I was like, Montana sounds nice. Let's go there. So yeah, we came up for like a week, sometime a year before we moved, and then met with the dealership and met with the service manager and decided, I think I want to give it a go. And so we did it. So I remember thinking this is kind of like one of my first thoughts about something like this, but I remember thinking like, I'm in control of my situation. I don't like the situation I'm in. I'm going to fix that. And so, you know, it was kind of a mindset thing back then. Like, hey, you know, I can complain about it or I can do something about it. Right. And didn't like working there, and or, I didn't like California anymore, and um, yeah, it was a whole thing. Like we had lost a house during the bubble, and you know, it was a it was a bad deal. So I just decided if we're gonna lose the house anyway, I might as well leave, right? Like I don't really have anything holding me back, so I went for it, took a chance.
And how old was your oldest at that time?
Oh god, my oldest, she was like 4 years old, I think 3 or 4.
Okay.
Can't
And
remember. She was born
how
in
long were you at
2000.
that dealer?
Oh god, it was terrible. I don't know how far I want to get into this. I guess there's no name, so I'll tell you. Yeah, it was about 3 to 4 months, I would say. I
Wow.
started there in April of 13.
No, I'm thinking about this. You picked up your entire family, you moved, and
Yeah.
within 3 months, you're like, "I'm blowing this up."
Well, I went for like a trial for a month, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take my toolbox, put it on a car trailer, gonna go up there, and I'll work and see if it's gonna be good, because 'cause we're flat rate tech, and I'm worried, are they gonna have enough work? I'm in a shop of master techs. I mean, probably 80% were master techs in California. It was Elk Grove Honda and the Auto Mall in Elk Grove. So, like, there was a bunch of guys there. We were all good, uh, like I don't know. It's a different environment. The pool is bigger. There's 3 colleges in Sacramento area that teach automotive repair. And I came into a rural community where that wasn't the case, right? And, like, I'm working with a guy, I'm talking to the guy next to me, and he's like, "Oh, I did roofing last summer, and that's what I did, and now I'm doing this," and I hate to say it, I don't wanna say anything negative about anybody, but you get people that are like, "Oh, my Uncle Bob, showed me how to put a starter in my Ford F-150, and now I'm a mechanic," it's just, like, not the same. I went to college for this, I'm not trying to be mean, but, I mean, I literally went to college after school or after work every day and spent I mean, man, I have probably 8 or 9 years at American River College, Sac City College. I took the motorcycle program and finished that 2-year degree, so, like, I have multiple things for automotive and motorcycle repair, and I'm a fixer, right? I'm a tinkerer.
Right.
Not more, but I was. So,
Right, right. Yep.
uh, but yeah, like, so I came up here as a little weird. The service manager that hired me, there wasn't a lot of work. It was kinda rough as a flat rate tech. The service like, one day I'm working or whatever, and I see the service manager get walked out by some people, and I see, like, locksmiths changing the locks, and I thought, "This is really weird. What's going on?" And nobody said anything. It was just kinda like a weird deal. And I remember thinking like, "Man, that's weird," and I texted him like, "Is everything okay?" Like, and the guy was just like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I was stealing from the company, and, like, it is what it is. Like, they found out, and this is, where we're at." And I was kinda, like, shocked, I just never thought that would happen, I guess, and my position was bad because it's like, well, I'm coming into this, I moved my whole family up here, and now I'm this guy hired me, and he's the one getting walked out the door, like, what's next for me, and are they gonna think I knew about it, or, because we had been talking for a year, but, like, on and off every month, just, like, getting prepared to move up there, He spent a lot of time getting me to come up, so it was really weird, and then there was a vacuum, and there wasn't a lot of leadership there, and the guy who was I mean, I don't wanna talk bad about anybody, but,
No,
the
yeah.
it was the
Don't
owner's
mention
son.
names, right? Don't mention the name of the dealer, don't mention the name of the individuals, just
Well, but it was the typical, and I think a lot of guys could relate to this that are in the industry. It was the typical, like, son of the owner running things, and those guys, in my opinion, don't make great leaders. I don't think that
I think they can, but
they
you
can't.
need to
Right.
be I came across somebody who, they're about to take the shop over from their parents, but before they worked there, they were required by their parents to go work somewhere else, and I was like, "That's an interesting perspective to have, to make sure that you get an outside perspective," and the reason that you have that perspective is because you've seen, and there's been plenty of cases where the child is just handed everything and haven't gone through the fire to be refined. And yeah, I mean, we want more for our kids, more than we had, whatever that means, right? But like, you need to make sure that they still go through that refining process so that they are more than you on the
And that's
other
the
end.
problem, right? Like, and I suffer from that too. Like, how much do I how much do I help my kids by putting, some privilege their way, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like, do I let them suffer as much, and like, I'll tell you a little bit about my story about how, things that are happening coming up, but like, there was a lot of struggle to get where I'm at. Like, do I make them do that same struggle, or do I give them, do of course I want to make it better for them, right? Like, I think everybody does that has kids, right? But like, it's one of those things. It's like, do you, do you let them fend for themselves, or do you give them a hand up? Like, I don't know. I'm still struggling with that myself, but in this situation, I felt that way. And that might have been my perception of the time. I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about the guy. He's no longer in the industry. Um, but yeah, he came in and from another dealer that they owned, and he just didn't put leadership in place. There's no service manager, and people start doing their own thing. And we had a service writer that was a plumber 6 months before that, and just had no sales experience, and just I felt like they were just trying to rush things through the shop to get them done, but they weren't actually taking the time to, talk to the customers and, do the job, right? Like, and so, I think I had a check for like maybe 30 hours for, 2 weeks. And I just said, hey, this isn't working for me. Either put me hourly or I'm going to have to go somewhere else. He took that bad, like, very bad, and, like, got really upset and said I didn't believe in his vision and, whatever. And I said, It's not that, I just can't work for free, and I can't stand around all day and whatever." At the time, my Toyota I have a 12 Tundra, so this is how long ago this was. It was still under that Toyota does some, like, you get 2 free services or whatever the deal was, maintenance program. So I had, like, 1 left, and I took it over to the dealer at lunch in town, the Toyota dealer, and it was the funniest conversation because they made fun of me years later for it, but I walk in and I'm like, "Hey, I need an oil change. Here's my stuff, and then also, are you guys hiring? Like, I need a job." And the guy was I remember the Toyota dealer was busy, like, I mean, it looked like a California dealer. There's, 300 cars out front, and there's a huge, intake bay, and there's tons of, cars moving around, and I thought, "This is where I need to be," like,
Mhm.
whatever. And luckily, because of what I told you earlier, how the area doesn't have a good pool of techs, like, I was literally pulled from the service writer to the service manager's office, 5-minute talk. Okay, let's go talk to the GM up front. And as next thing
Mm.
you know, I'm sitting in front of the GM, and we're
You were
talking
hired before the oil change was complete.
pretty much. It was done, and yeah, and
Now
he
that's
was like,
service right there. I mean,
yeah,
like,
he was,
we'll get you in and out in 30 minutes with a
yeah.
job.
And what I liked about him is, instead of, man, he was a great boss. And what I liked about him was he brought me in and told me the whole story about how he acquired the dealership or why they built it, and how, I don't want to
Mm.
talk about the specifics about it, but like, he was like, "Hey man, I need you to believe in my vision. Basically, this is what's happening. This is where I'm going." And he's grown. I mean, he owns like 3 or 4 dealerships in Kalispell now. So I mean, the guy's, really taken off from there. But
Well, hold on. I want to add something real quick, and I
sure,
found
sure.
interesting. Based on those two different dealerships, those two different stories. The one said, "You don't believe in my vision." And my first thought was, did he communicate the
Mm.
vision? And if so, how did he communicate his vision? And it sounds like no, no, and no. He had one maybe, but he didn't share it with anyone. So what good is it? And right from the get go, before your oil was changed, the other one did share the complete story and vision. And we're going to circle back to how this applies to your current hires at your current shop. All right. We're going to circle that back.
You put me
But
on
for
the
now, keep
spot.
yeah, keep going to your story. Keep going
Yeah.
into. And
Okay.
so,
So
you,
I don't want to
how
go
long were
super.
you at how long were you at that dealership?
2 years, 2 years.
Okay.
And yeah, and we had some, it was good. Like, I'd still be there probably if my wife didn't get a job here in Helena. Is why we ended up in Helena. But
Mm.
yeah, my wife had a pretty bad car accident that year, right before, like, 2 days before Christmas. A drunk driver hit her, almost killed her, totaled her car. Um
How's she doing
things
today?
weren't good for us. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I definitely thought like I should move back to California. This was a mistake, kind of thing, And
Hey, real
I
quick, how's your
yeah,
wife today?
great, great. Yeah, she's
Good,
fine. Fully,
good.
fully
Thank you.
healed. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking. She's good. Yeah, and, she had some problems later, like driving at night. She'd get scared or whatever, but yeah, there was some issues there, right? And so, that dealership, came together. All mechanics have these side projects, I guess, and I had bought an old Land Cruiser, like an FJ80, and, I had pulled the head off, and I was hand lapping the valves at home, and this all happened during that time, and I remember I made friends with the master tech there. Everyone else is like, "He's grumpy, don't deal with him," and I just kept pushing, I wanted to be friends with him, and so we kinda developed a friendship, and, he's not easy to get along with, I guess, is the easy way to say it, but he's a great person, and, uh, he helped me. We came in on the weekend, and we put that thing together, like, Saturday, Sunday, put that truck back together and, gave it to my wife because we didn't have another car, and so the times were tough, it was I remember thinking I just sold that car a couple years ago, but I remember thinking, like, I just need it to last the winter so I can save up some money and buy her another car kinda thing, and we ended up driving that thing for 6 or 7 years. I mean, had 360,000 on it when we sold it, so, it was tough times, I guess, when I first moved here. I thought it was gonna be easy, but it was definitely a different, change of pace, and the money's not easy here. It's not as good as the city, I mean, I guess there's certain parts of Montana that can be like the city, but, it's not California, and there's a reason why they have a big economy, and, they got the car culture there is a lot different than it is here, and so I used to see Lamborghinis driving down the road in my hometown, and, you don't see that here. I mean, have to go to Bozeman or something, but
So I'm curious, the connection that you developed with that master tech that helped you with your
yeah.
car, could have you developed that same type of relationship with a similar person in California, in Sacramento? Was that person I guess what I'm asking is the culture or the people different? Like, or are they more apt to do those types of things than they were in California? Or no, the people are people everywhere and they're absolutely willing to help if you're asking the right people?
Well, yeah, they're not related. The 2 things aren't related. So, like,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
he's just a different person, right? Like, everyone has different personalities.
Oh, no,
His
I got that. And actually, based on what I've heard, right? Like,
Yeah,
even though he might have had a rough personality on the outside, he was willing to be a teammate.
yeah. I'm gonna get
Right, and that
super
to
into
me goes much further than whether or not someone has a
Yeah,
social butterfly personality.
I'm definitely gonna get a hard time for this. I don't wanna say his name, but, I mean, Solashoff in there, and, so whatever. It is what it is. He's a good dude. Like, the problem is, um, I don't know. I like to think of him as like Rick from Rick and Morty, Like, he's so good that, like, things annoy him. Other people annoy him, right? Like, someone's like, "Oh,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah." Like, he's like that. He's, like, so
Okay.
good that people kind of, like, annoy him. He's frustrated with, like, stupid questions. I gotta be really pointed and, like, if I ask a question, I know I'm probably gonna get shit before I get the answer, you know what I mean? Like, he's gonna play with me a little bit, right? Like, he's not gonna give it to me easy, so and that's fine. Like, that's just how he is, He's not a bad person. I think it's off-putting sometimes to some of the people that he probably worked with and whatever, but, like, after you work with him a while and you get to know each other, it's fine. Like, everyone
But
loves him.
my biggest takeaway again is that he was willing to help you out when you were
Oh, yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit under, and
and that's the definition of good people, right? Like,
yes,
if they're willing to step up and help somebody that needs help, that's what the actions matter, not the
but
words.
that's also in my mind what you want for your team to
Yeah,
treat each other,
most definitely.
right? Like you're hopeful that they're going to have that kind of bond and connection between each other.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And, there's a lot of stuff going on like that right now around here, and it's just, we put in how do I say it a good way? You just gotta step up sometimes and you gotta help people when they're in the down spot, right? Like,
I think people, I think a lot of people want to help, or I'm sorry, are willing to help. I think one of the flaws in humanity in general is that we're so busy focused on our own problems, we forget to look at someone else's problems next to us. And it's not that we don't want to help, is that we're too focused on our own stuff. Let that go. Help the guy next to you. Uh, I'm not saying you don't get your own work done. Of course, you get your own work done, but I'm saying don't
yeah,
be caught up in your own baggage.
look, I'm guilty of that too, right? Like,
We're people.
yeah, and I like feel like when I joined this coaching group, like, I was really focused on the money because that's where I was hurting, right? Like, and I had been hurting since, the Kalispell days, and then I moved to Helena and I worked at this dealer. And, to move on from that, like, I went here
All right. So
because
you left the dealer because you moved to a different town.
yeah, so Helena's like 4 hours away or 3.5.
Okay.
Everything's like 2 hours from everything here. But yeah, Kalispell is Kalispell is a different it's on the other side of the divide, it's a little different, it's more foresty. I
Okay.
happen I happen to like it a little bit better. A lot of Californians move there.
Okay.
It kinda is what it is. They got a pretty growing.
And so your wife got a different job over here, and
Yeah.
that's why you moved. So what did you do when you moved?
Okay, I still remember when we came out here. I drove her out here because I was worried, I didn't want her to wreck or have a problem, so I drove her out here, we got up really early. She had to come to the interview. She's doing the same job she was doing back home in Sacramento, and it has to do with the legislation kind of stuff. So, she had a lot of experience, and they wanted her. And while she was at her interview, I just went over to Toyota and Honda and said, "Hey, like, here's me, like, here's what I have."
Y-
And it was
Here,
similar.
can you give me an oil change and a job?
Yeah, yeah, not this time, but yeah, it was yeah. But it was the same thing, right? Like, I remember not even filling out an application. The guy was just like he asked me for my Honda number, so we have, like, an internal number, and I gave him my internal Honda number, and then they can look up all your training. Like, they can contact the rep or whatever, they'll tell you everything. So, yeah, he was pretty much offering me the job right off this, no problem, like, "When can you start?" kinda thing, so really different in Sacramento, and I don't know if it's changed, but back then it was like, you'd have to have a smog license, you'd have to have all your ASCs, you'd have to have an L1. I mean, to compete with that market, you had to be really good. You couldn't just come in off the street and be like, I mean, you could, but you'd be working in the express bay. You're not gonna be making big or nothing. So yeah, like, I had a smog license, I had all these extra things that like made me a little bit more, sellable to the companies, but I was a terrible employee. I can tell you right now, like I actually sent an email to one of my old bosses or a text message, I'm sorry, not that long ago. And I said, man, it's the hardest thing, like being the boss now is terrible. Like it's really hard. I don't know how you dealt with me back in the day because I was a terrible employee and I'm sorry, And so it's kind of funny, like how the
How did he
world kind
reply?
of goes back around. Yeah, it was pretty positive, He was like,
He was somewhat gracious. He's like,
yeah, and he was gracious, and he told me like, "Hey, don't worry about it, like, we're all on a journey here, and, like, you were young." But, I worked for him twice, you know what I mean? You know, I don't remember if I got fired or quit. I can't remember. I used to quit a lot. My wife told me back she was always scared when I was younger. We've been together since we were in high school, and she was like, "I didn't know if I was gonna come home and you're gonna quit another job, like, you're very unstable," like, so and I had a temper and a big ego, and I still even, up until, like, 3 years ago, maybe, or even recently, like, I've had to let go a lot of that. So, we're all
right,
on that
right.
personal development thing now, so
If we want to be, and we choose
yeah.
to be on the journey, or we choose to ignore it and keep the ego.
Yeah, letting go of the ego is a big deal. Like,
Hmm.
you can't let
I
go.
wonder if that's going to come up. We have a panel that is happening on April 15th of 2026, and that'll be released the following Monday. What is that? The 21st? I'm sorry, the following Tuesday. It'll be released on April 21st. And so we're recording this episode before that, even though this one's going to get published after that. So go back and listen to that if you're curious about ego. I imagine it's going to come up because the topic is this. The panel is going to be talking about who's running your shop, you or your lead technician. Because oftentimes the lead tech's ego allows you to dictates what decisions you're making as opposed to the other way around. And who's
I,
running the shop?
yeah, I don't know about that here. I'm the biggest ego. Probably. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. All
but
right.
but I mean, you gotta, well, let's finish this. So I come out here. We'll talk about that other stuff later. But we come out here. I worked at the dealer. Um, there was some guys that had worked. They worked here too. There was like three of us, I think, that were master techs, and it was super weird. Like they got really offended, or like I don't know. There wasn't enough work, and they were super weird about, like, I would do a timing belt on like a V6 Honda with a water pump in like an hour and a half, and these guys would get that same job and be like, I'm done for the day. Like, I'm just gonna like chill and do this, go slow as I want. And, but I had come from a different world where there's 28 guys and I want two
Mm-hmm.
T-belts a day. I don't want one T-belt. I'm a highly driven person, right? Like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to make money. And I would stay till 7:30. The sales manager would have to kick me out of the shop at night, at the place in Helena, right? Like, I remember they would come to lock the shop and the sales manager would be like, "Hey, man, you can't be here by yourself. Like, it's 7:30, man. What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm fixing cars. I'm getting my jobs done. I don't want this bay filled in the morning. I want it empty so the first car that comes in is mine. And I was that kind of tech. And so I think a lot of these guys got kind of, they didn't like that. They didn't like I rubbed them the wrong way, I think. And I had an ego real big.
Okay.
Uh, you
Yeah,
know,
but you were also working harder than
well,
you weren't making them look very good because you were working harder than they were.
yeah, it was rough, right? And like
Yeah.
looking back, I could have been a way better employee, a way better person to these other people. But like I had a lot of issues. Like I had a service writer that didn't trust me. And I can see that now, right? Because I'm in a different spot in life. But I remember, like, I would say, "Hey, man, we need XYZ," because I've seen that a million times in California. The pool of cars was bigger, right? And we're all sharing information, right? So I come out here, there's, how many Accord cross tours are in Helena? Probably like two, there's not a lot, right? And I would see something and I'd be like, "Hey, we need to do this," right? And then I remember specifically that service writer would be like, "Well, let me go see what so and so says," right? And that kept happening. And I don't think he meant it in a bad way. He just didn't trust me yet, but it frustrated the hell out of me. So yeah, that was one of the things that really drove me nuts. Like, and I'm not trying to like, say anything bad about these other guys, but like both of those guys together didn't have the experience that I had with Honda, right? Like I'd been working for Honda since like 1999.
Right.
So I mean, I had, 15, 16 years on these guys. So
So
it
how long were
was
you there before you got the bug of just I
well,
know better. I'm gonna open up my own thing.
I don't and I bounced. They have a Toyota dealer that they owned next door. I went over there, butted heads with everybody because I have a ego. That didn't work. I went back to Honda, butted heads some more, and then I just decided, you know what? Like, I can't deal with these dealer guys anymore. And we had a meeting, and I remember the head of everybody was there because we were having so many issues. We would get into arguments over cars, and they started doing this thing where they're splitting up the VIN numbers. So, like, if the VIN ends in 0 to 3, it's this guy's car to try to make it fair, right? And it was super bad. Yeah, it was a real toxic situation, and I take my part of it. Like I probably wasn't great about handling stuff and communicating and whatever. It is what it is. It's all under the bridge, right? Like, but
All right. So you make the decision. What does that look
yeah.
like? What does that decision that
Well,
decision moment look like?
I just remember telling them like, I need you guys to fix this in the meeting, and I said if it's not fixed in 30 days, I'm out of here. I'm going to start my own shop, and I said it in front of everybody, right? And I remember I can't
I
remember
like
who.
putting it out there on the table for all.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I communicated very clearly, like, this is what I'm doing. And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was the owner. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the owner kind of laughed. Like, and I took it as almost like an insult and a challenge at the same time. Because
Mhm.
in his mind, he was thinking, "There's," and I had said something really shitty, like, I'm sorry. I said
Go ahead.
something about, like, "Either you guys fix it in 30 days, I'm gonna start my own shop, and I'll take all the cars, not just a third of them."
So you had to pile it on,
Yeah,
not just, "I'm gonna leave and do my
yeah,
own
let me
thing."
back up. I said something really crappy, right.
Okay.
Forgot about that.
Alright.
Oh my god, yeah, it was not good, right? Like, I would probably be offended too if I was the boss, so, whatever, it is what it is. Like, he laughed, I took it as a challenge. I was frustrated, I think I let that come out during that meeting, but yeah, 30 days went by, I didn't say anything. At the time, I think the Napa rep had come by, and I grabbed him and said, "Hey, man, I need to know what I need to do to get into this. I need to start an account, like, I'm ready, I'm gonna do this." And so 30 days came and went. It was like day 30. Like, I pulled in the car trailer, like, I'm literally pushing my huge, Snap-on toolbox onto the thing. And he comes running out. It's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm leaving, dude. It's day 30. I told you." Like, and I'm still, what was making me mad is like a lot of stuff. I'd come in and I'd be standing until 9 o'clock, right? From 7:30 to 9. And I'd look over and those other two guys would have 3 cars in each of their areas, right? That they're working on. And I guess they had said something to management, like, if I don't know, something about if I get too much work, they're gonna, like, both quit. And so I think in the dealership's eyes, they're like, "Well, I don't wanna lose 2 guys. I could lose 1 probably." Like, I'm thinking that's probably what happened, right? I don't know,
Right, right,
my
maybe, yeah.
perception. But anyway, yeah, I gave him my laptop, I was out. I found a place, a guy was moving out to a bigger spot, and, it's a little tiny metal building from the '70s, and I went to work, and I started building the company from that day, and it was like
How'd you
April.
get your first customer?
God, I don't even remember. I think we were doing, like, Facebook ads maybe. I don't
Okay.
remember, like, it was so long ago, but, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot going on, I was.
Who you said "we," or did you use an outside agency to do those ads, or did you do it yourself at first?
No, it was just me, yeah.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
just me.
Alright.
I was probably
And
word of mouth a little bit. I mean, it's kinda.
yep,
I do remember
yep.
doing some crazy ads though, like, "Hey, we'll do a timing belt for this much," or whatever, like, trying to
Okay.
undercut the dealer.
And you started out as a general repair shop, but now you're
No, no, it
just
was
you're pe
always an import shop, like, or,
always an import shop.
yeah,
Okay.
but I guess my thing was, to me, import meant, like, Japanese and not European. Because where I'm from, like, European's a European shop, right?
Mhm.
So the distinction here, though, is definitely anything like not a Chevy or Ford and Dodge is probably gonna come to me, right? So I got a lot of stuff that I had no idea, back then is like I had done some Mercedes and, you know, some Euro, but it wasn't, not at the level like I was getting it. And I really had to get smart fast, like,
Alright, what year was this that you, had that
oh gosh,
tin shed?
16. So it's maybe
Okay.
20 years this month. I
It'll be
started.
10 years this month.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right.
10 years this month,
10 years. Yep.
the tin shed, did it even have heat?
Yeah. Yeah. I had gas heat. There was 2 bays.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm acting like it was a long time ago, man. It was only like,
10 years ago is
no, no.
was nothing, blink of an eye.
Yeah, not that. I meant just like the being in that building. I mean, we just moved into this one in July. So last July. So, you know,
Oh, did you go from there to here?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a big difference that you went to now
Yeah.
to what you have now is a
This
massive
shop,
difference.
this shop that it was in, you could pull in 1 car. There was an office on the side, and you could probably put another smaller car, not like a F-150, but you could probably put like a Civic or something small, VW, something like that, behind it and close the door. And then we had another side, and that part I hadn't utilized at all. And I think, God, I took like a Square loan, I think, when I couldn't get anybody to give me a loan. I took one of those swipe loans that are terrible, and then we bought a lift with that money. And then I started, you know, it started getting better, but I worked for 8 months on my back, and I was telling you earlier, like it was so bad I couldn't pay my bills. I had to deliver newspapers in the morning. So I bought like an old piece of crap legacy mail car. I had the, like, the right-hand drive, and then I would go at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, go get papers, go deliver them all over town, and then I'd go to work, and I'd work all day, and then I'd get off at, like, 5:30, I'd shut the shop down, and I'd run over, and I got a job at Papa John's, like, believe it or not, and, I was their best employee. Like, I would do everything they told me to do, and, like no,
Right.
I'm not kidding, like, I got a ton of,
Deliver the pizza, fix the car at the same time.
the delivery job's weird, man. You deliver the pizza, but then, like, when you're not delivering, you're expected to, like, run the line. I'd cut the pizzas, I'd put them in boxes, I'd do the whole thing, right? And then I'd answer the phone. So if the phone's, they have like it needs to ring a certain amount of time, then you need to pick it up. And where I got the praise was, I think selling on the phone, right? Like do you want a brookie with that, or you want a 2 liter of Pepsi, or whatever it was. And like, I was good at upselling, right? Like I mean, I was dealing with customers all day, so it wasn't a big deal. And
Funny.
where these like 20-year-old people are like, you get them to answer the phone, they're just like, bruh, you know what I mean? Like they don't have the skills, the soft skills, right?
Right.
But
Right.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
now
laughing
Papa
because
John's
oh, good.
now Papa John's doesn't even take the phone calls.
Yeah.
They outsource them. All
Oh, do they?
all phone ordering is
Oh,
done in, I don't know, India probably. And that's what it
maybe.
sounds like when you call. We've ordered recently from there,
Okay.
and yeah, you don't talk to the local people. You talk to somebody, an order taker over in India.
Well,
Yeah.
what I didn't realize is they record all the calls, which I guess is probably the same in our industry, and then they would pick people every month, right? And like it seemed like every month I'd win and I'd get a $50 gift card to Walmart or something. I don't know. And I don't know why I still have those stupid papers. You get your check and then they'd have like a letter saying like you're an awesome employee or whatever. And I do remember like I'd clean the bathrooms all the time because it's so weird. Before you could go home, there's like a job list or duty list or whatever, and they would pick one for you. Like, okay, Kyle, today you're sweeping out the cooler or whatever, right? Like, I would always get bathroom, and I'd get super mad. Like, man, this is like the fourth day of bathrooms. Like, what did I do wrong? I remember talking to the girl. She was like 21 or something, the manager, and I'd say, hey, why are you always giving me bathrooms? Like, I don't mind, but like, I don't ever see like anything else. It's always bathrooms. And I remember to this day, she looked at me and she goes, you're the only one that actually does it though. Like if I give it to any of the other employees, they won't do a good job. You're the only one that'll clean it and make it look nice, which is, part of an accountability problem on her end. But like now that I'm an owner, but like, yeah, I remember that very distinctly. Like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do the bathrooms. You know what I mean? It's just whatever.
Right. Right.
But
Huh.
yeah,
Okay.
so we did that for a while, and then
How many years were you doing 3 jobs to keep
I would say
keep
a
the lights on?
solid year,
Almost
definitely a
all year.
solid year.
And then even after that year, you were still fumbling and struggling and pulling your hair
Yeah,
out at that 2-bay tin shop for the better part of 5 more or 6 more years.
yeah,
And then you said, "Wake up, I wanna grow." And the last 3 years have been a whirlwind for you, right? Like, you've been
yeah,
growing fast in the last 3 years.
yeah, and I'll
Okay.
shorten it up. But there was I, it's kind of weird. I don't want to go too far into it, but I became a deputy here in town in between. 5 days.
Oh, okay.
So I
Let me get you a
became
4th job.
yeah. Well, I got rid of all those. I had enough money where
Okay.
so I had a job for myself and I was okay. I could pay my bills, right? I started seeing a little success, but I thought I was a baller, right? But I wasn't. Um,
Okay.
you don't know until you know, right? So, I thought
Yeah.
I was doing really good. I wasn't. And then I got side quested into this, reserve deputy thing, and I was doing that on the weekends. So I was like, it's crazy, man. I'm running code to like, calls and I'm working as a cop, like in a reserve capacity. And then that happened on Saturday. And then Monday morning, I'm putting a water pump on a Sequoia, right? And I'm like, it's not as exciting. I felt like, yeah, I feel like I'm respected more as a cop. Like I kind of want to do the cop thing, And so I started pushing into that and I put all my focus on that and let my shop go behind. And that was a terrible mistake on my end. I will say though, like I ended up becoming a full-time cop and I hated it. It wasn't a great job. Like, I thought it would be good. It wasn't. I mean, there's plenty of times I was driving home in my patrol car and like thinking like that was the shittiest experience ever. Like I don't I don't want to do that. And I don't like being told by a start. Yeah, and it was right after COVID. Things were weird. You know, my sergeant's a 30-year-old guy and I'm 40. I mean, it's just weird, right? And like, feel like I can't say anything because I'm like he's senior to me, and it was a whole thing. And so, probably my ego got in the way again, right? Like, there's a recurring theme here I'm trying to get to. Like, you let go of the ego. But anyway, it ended up not working out, and it was fine, right? Like we parted ways. I didn't do anything wrong. It was just not working out. I got to the end of my FTO period, like field training period, and
And your shop still was existing.
yeah,
Shop was still.
yeah.
Mhm.
The craziest thing, I was working on my off days because it's like 410. So I was working on my off days. My mom was taking the appointment, like answering the phone all day, taking appointments for me. It was crazy, right? And like it was definitely, I was at the edge of burnout. Being on field training is like very stressful. So I had that going on plus my other stuff. It was terrible. And I even went through the academy, and I remember like not turning in assignments at the academy, and I got pulled into the office and they yelled at me. And I said, well, I get off at 4:30. And they're like, well, if you get off at 4:30, you should have time to get this stuff done. And I'm like, yeah, well, at 4:30, I go home, change out, and I drive to my shop and I work till 10 o'clock. And then I go home and eat real fast with my wife, and I come back to the academy and go to sleep. And I do it all. This is what I do every day, right? So they cut me some grace after that, and I do remember one of the sergeants saying, like, look, man, the world needs people to put water pumps on or whatever, like the world needs mechanics. Why are you doing this? Why are you pushing into this? And I'm like, I don't know. I just thought there was more respect there, or like it was a more respected profession, right? Like, I don't know. In my head, my mind was like going that way. And he was like, look, man, like we respect like I respect you as a mechanic. This was a sergeant that was an instructor at the academy. And so I think he planted that seed in my head. It kind of grew after I got out of the academy. I hated the job. Like, no offense to anybody that does that job. I have plenty of friends that are deputies still, like we still talk, but it takes a certain level of mindset, and it takes a really strong person and someone that can disassociate from all the trauma, right? There's a lot of trauma in that job. And my wife saw right away, like, hey, you're snapping
Right.
at us at home. You're not in a good space mentally. So that
Yeah.
was okay. I left that behind. So
At the very least, it seems to me, at the very least, you can't have a second job while doing that job. You need you need rest. That's how our bodies reboot, right? That's
yeah.
uh
And I probably
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
going about it the right way. I just didn't know any better. I was doing what I could, and so
Okay.
anyway.
And so when did you stop? When did you go back to just the shop? How many years ago was that?
21 it was the end of 21 when I left the sheriff's office. So, I remember having a conversation with my wife, and I said, it's going to be okay. I'm going to go back full time. The shop never shut down. We were still making money. I mean, I probably made, I don't know, 60 or 70 grand that year. It wasn't, I mean,
Yeah.
gross. I didn't do a lot,
Yeah.
but I had enough to, whatever. So she was like, if you're going to do it, I need you to go all in. I need you to, put
Nice.
put a good effort in because
Good for
she
her.
goes, I think before you weren't buying scan tools, you weren't investing in the business because you were worried you're going to be a full-time cop and you were going to have to sell or find somebody to take
Mhm.
over my old role. And so I didn't. She's right. I didn't put any effort into that side. So I did. And then, yeah, I mean, I remember that first year, I bought a bunch of scan tools. I think it was the following year, 17. No, I'm sorry, 22. I bought scan
Me too.
tools. I started going at it, right? And I think that's when I started getting into like the coaching part. I went to a Vin Waterhouse thing in Billings through Napa. Vin Waterhouse is like an older guy that works with Napa doing the financial
Okay.
stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to not mention his name, but
No, you're allowed to.
he's a
Have at it. Yeah.
yeah, he was great. He opened my eyes into like parts matrices and like he had made a point. I think we were using Mitchell at the time, and he was like, if you have 10 brackets for the parts matrix, it's very like a staircase, right? And like you need to, if you have 200 in your price matrix, it's very linear, right? Like you'll make more profit. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, that sounds like a good idea. And so I'd go back and like kind of modify stuff. And I think I made a switch to like Shop Monkey at the time because Mitchell didn't have that capability. So I started adjusting, right? Like, oh, I need to do this. So I'm going to get a better SMS, and I'll start doing some other stuff. And so that's kind of what happened there. But yeah, I mean, that was the first exposure to like a coach, I guess, that I had. And it seemed to, not really, no. About, so about 23, I started running into some trouble. I kind of went to my wife and I said, hey, I owe, I mean, I'll be pretty vulnerable here. I owed Napa like locally like $23,000 and I had like 4,000 in my bank account. And I'm like, holy crap, like I don't know what happened. Like I don't know why it's that way. And she's just like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, I can, I wasn't in a spot where I like had, I was ready to close the doors, but like it was the first sign that like he's not working, like something I'm not doing something right here. And definitely, you know, there's something I need to do like now to fix it. So anyway, I think I don't remember if she suggested it, if I did, but we were talking about coaching. And so I reached out to Vin and I kind of signed up with him. It was a couple hundred a month, but I wasn't getting like the coaching back that I wanted. It just seemed like, I don't know, we could never get that figured out. I don't know how to explain it. I paid for a couple months, but I never even talked to him. So I don't know what the deal.
Well, there's a couple different types of coaching that are out there that I've seen, and one is kind of like what you said. Here's access to information,
Yeah.
right? And then you got to go figure it out. And then the other one is here is the playbook that we use,
Hmm.
and it's a good platform, it's a good playbook, but your individual coach is going to customize it for you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a better scenario, because I
Yeah.
do think looking at each and every shop individually is advantageous. Like it's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities. That's why we have this show, because
Yeah.
everyone can relate to each other, right? But at the same time, it's still a little different
Yeah.
here in my area versus your area. So
And I don't have anything against Ben Waterhouse at all. I mean, I think he's great. At that conference, it was in a hotel in Billings, and I remember, getting a drink with the guy at night, and it was funny because he wanted to talk about cop stories, and I wanted to talk about like my financials, right? So I was like,
right, right.
I'm like, okay, I'll trade you a story that I went on. That I need this back, Ben. Like I need, So it was kind of funny. He's from the East Coast. My family's originally from the East Coast, so
Okay.
he had that accent like my grandmother has, right? And so I thought it was awesome. He talks kind of like Peter Griffith. It's funny. And, we had this whole thing, right? And so it was great. But for whatever reason, it didn't line up later. And then I reached out. I saw Shop Fix, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's going to work, but like, I'll reach out, right? And I think within like maybe 35 minutes, somebody called me. It was fast. And I was like,
Mm,
huh, who's this calling me from Tennessee? And it was a guy named Thomas Hayes who still kind of works for them. He works, yeah. Well, I don't want to say who he works for because it's a marketing company, but he's part of
okay.
that group or whatever. Anyway,
Okay.
he was very gracious to me. He walked me through everything. It was like you said, it was they introduced me to a plan that was a couple $100 or whatever. It's like an introductory thing. It's mostly information and videos, like Aaron's driving growth videos. Um, but the meaningful part for me that kept me coming was because $200 a month seemed like 2,000 to me at the time, right? But Thomas, like walking me through things, I think we went on a FaceTime and we walked through the shop and he was just like, why isn't this other bay being utilized? Like I had pinball machines in there, right? He's like, why don't you have bays in there? And I'm like, well, there's a loft that I'd have to take down and blah, 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 And so it was I had a definite block in my mindset about what I needed to do next. And so he worked with me for a few months. We changed my parts matrix up. We did some different, kind of like the Aaron Stokes' videos on driving growth. That got me kind of in a good spot where I started making some money and I dug out, man. 20, whatever it was, 23,000 or whatever it was with Napa. I had it paid off by the fall. It wasn't a big deal. I went to those guys and said, I'm in trouble. I need some help. And I still buy a lot of parts. I mean, I probably buy more than 23,000, a month now from him or whatever, it's
Right, right.
so
Now, from a vendor perspective, they probably appreciated that you came and were transparent with them
yeah.
and then laid down, "Here's my plan to get this resolved." They probably appreciated that. Did they still offer you access to parts during that time period?
Yeah, they never shut me off. I never got that bad. I mean, I would pay, but I wouldn't pay on time, right? And like some of the things Thomas went over in my numbers was like, hey, um, they don't like to have 25, or they want to keep your parts cost under 25% or
Mhm.
25 and under. And I was like 33 or something, and he's like, you get 2% off your bill if you pay by the 10th. Like, why aren't you doing that? It's like, well, I didn't have the money and I've just been paying what I could. And,
Yeah,
guys get into that jam and they don't know what to do. And so,
yeah.
do I pay by the 10th now? Every time. Like, I paid before the 10th
Good.
because I want the 2%, right? That comes right off my net, it's a big deal. But if you didn't know the numbers and you weren't paying attention, that was me before. So it's a big deal.
Yep.
So
Okay.
so yeah, that happened. Um, I think Thomas had left for a while, went somewhere else, and I didn't really have anybody. We were talking a lot. And in fact, like Thomas was talking to me probably more than he should have been, like for his role. Like I found out later, I thought he was my coach, but he wasn't. But anyway, it's a long story. I just saw him last week at the conference. Like I gave him a big
Yeah.
hug. Yeah. Oh yeah. I still talk to him. Like, he's a great person. And I think, like everybody there, I think they all want people to be successful. And so I think that's a common theme, and they'll go extra out of the way to make that happen, And I think he wanted success for me, and he got me to that next level, and broke my mindset about hiring. He's like, I remember we had a talk, right? And this is like a lot of different times, different talks, but like he's like, you can only decrease your overhead or increase your productivity, but like one of those two things needs to happen, Kyle. And you don't have enough to give on the overhead, so like you can't go so low that, like you need to increase productivity is basically right. And so I didn't want to hire somebody. I was scared, I was like, I've never done that before. I don't know. It's a crazy thing. And I don't even have another space for somebody to work. And he was like, then work on that. Get rid of the pinball machines, put in, you could probably at least get one lift. And then the good thing about me though is like once I get convinced I can do something, then it's like the wheels fall out. I'm crazy. Like I'll, Is that yeah, like I ordered 2 lifts. I measured, I'm like, I could fit 2 in here. Let's do 2. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know, like they get kind of weird because I'll go nuts. And so I bought 2. And then, we ended up taking the loft out. It took us a whole weekend. It was a huge loft with like a big beam. I had to get a forklift. I mean, it was a lot of work, and like we put it all together and I got the guy in here to fix it. I remember he charged me $3,000 to put 2 lifts in. And I thought that was like the end of the world, like, holy crap. And I remember my wife saying, like, "You can make that in a day, like, quit worrying about that and just get it done." And these are the mental mind blocks that you get, and it's crazy. Like, last year I did a Goldman Sachs group called 10K Small Businesses, right? And I'll just tell you this quick story about mindset. I get into this group and they're like, "Hey, let's do breakouts, one-on-ones." I end up with a guy that puts seamless gutters on for a living, right? Totally different. And I'm the only auto guy there, by the way. They only do like one industry. I'm talking to him and he's breaking down his business for me. And I go, listen, he goes, I got all this work. I'm 4 weeks booked out. I can't even get it all done. Um, and if I get this other thing with this new builder, I'll be even more booked out, and it's crazy. And I just don't have enough time in the day. And he's telling me this whole thing, right? And I'm like, it sounds like you need to hire somebody, man. And he goes, and I wasn't thinking at the time I'd be giving him business advice, right? I'm just like trying to talk to him, like me and you are talking right now. And he goes, well, workman's comp though, workman's comp. And I said, what about it, man? And he goes, workman's comp. And I go, okay, what about it? And he goes, well, then I got to pay workman's comp. And I started laughing and go, okay, well, like I go, look, uh, in our group, like techs are free. Like if you have a good tech, they're gonna pay for themselves, right? Like, and I told him that, and I said, why your guy's gonna make you 30 or 40 grand a month? Like, why would you like? workman's comp's $400 maybe for that job trade. I'm just estimating like 300-400 bucks, and he's like, well, yeah, but then there's payroll tax and there's, blah, blah, blah. And I go, look, man, like I can see clear as day, like your problem is this, like you need to hire somebody. That's what needs to happen right now. And I said, when you hire somebody, you'll break through to the next level. You'll break through. Like I can see it clear as day. And the guy's just like, I don't think so. I just, it's too much. It's too much to do. And I just thought, man, that's all right here. Like it's all up here and there's no scary monster up there. Just do it and you'll see. Like you'll come out the other side and you will make more money and your business will grow. And the guy could not see it, he wasn't getting through. And I remember thinking in our group they say like you can't see your blind spots. And this is definitely like what was happening with this guy, and so he did listen to me later at the end of the thing. It's like a 4-month Zoom thing every week, and then we meet again at the end. And he did hire somebody, and he was like, "Yeah, things changed. Like it was definitely like thanks for telling me, but I don't know if it was all me, but he definitely got to that next level, and he's not worried about hiring anybody anymore." And I was there, man. That's why I knew, and that's the power of being in a coaching group or being in a mastermind group or whatever. You're with all these people that have had that experience and they can see what your blind spots are, right? So it's kind of crazy like how that happened. And that was the first time I thought like, wow, maybe I do know a little something, or the shot fix is rubbing off on me, I guess. But I wanted to see him successful, and I felt like, damn, it's all right here. All he has to do is like make the plunge and trust somebody and he'd get there, So it's really weird.
I keep saying
Anyway.
lately the theme has been on this podcast. The theme has been just you got to take the next step.
Yeah.
Well, like that's the most important step. And I've mentioned in other episodes about how I've told my son that the last play in football doesn't matter. It's over. It's past. The only one that matters is the next one, right? Same way if you're golfing. Doesn't matter if you had a bad shot. You're going to have some bad shots, right? The only thing that matters is the next one. What are you going to do with this current lay and your next shot? And so, but that's it. It's that next step, and you took it, right? And that's why, that's why you were able to give that guy advice. You saw it.
Mhm.
You had been there, and that's
like what's
fun.
the worst that's gonna happen? Like
You're going to learn with new
you
problems.
go out
You're going to have new problems. You will have new problems, and you'll learn how to get through those too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I don't know. It's taking action is a big thing that I learned early. Aaron used to pound that into everyone's head at the conferences. Um, taking action on things was big. I learned a lot from that group. I mean, it transformed my life, and I think it was so crazy because I remember doing some of the stuff, but not all of it kind of thing, and then I ended up with a coach and whatever. And I remember the first coach was like, "Hey, how much are you taking every month?" And net, and I'm like, nothing. Like, it goes in my checking account. Like, I'm hoping I have money next week, kind of thing. I was definitely running my business from the checking account, and I didn't have it's the point I was going to make is I didn't even have a savings account, right? And he was like, you should be pulling out, that the goal is 20% net for us and put it in your savings account. And I'm like, I don't even have that, and he's like, hold on, like hard stop. You don't have a savings account. Like, no, I don't. I'm sorry. I just didn't. I've been running off my checking account. So, that guy, for sure early on influenced me. His name's Fred Young. I don't mind saying his name. He goes, "Hey, you need to go down there." It was like right at the new year. And he's like, "Go down there at the first day the bank's open, the second or whatever, go get a savings account. And even if you can't do 20%, because at the time I couldn't do it, he's like, put 10% away then, but you're going to make more money."
I got to tell you, my attitude is start with any percentage,
Yeah.
but then come up with a schedule to up the percentage until you reach 20. Right there. So like let's say you're concerned about this, you're nervous about this. Start with 5%, start with 3%, but next month dial it up to 4%. Next month dial it up to 5%, 5.5%, and and work your way up. So yes,
what he was
good. So you got that account. You did.
Was doing that, but he was also trying to tell me like taxes are going to be more because you're going to be making more. And I had hired 2 guys as I put those lifts in. That was that same fall. right? I think it was like October I hired my first tech. He was the guy that worked at Safeway, you know, it was like crazy. And I just was like, I just need to hire somebody. So let's go. Let's just see what we can do. And then I put those, I think those two lifts were operational in November. Like you could use them, like no problem. And then I hired another guy from a competitor that worked on V dubs. It's
Okay.
like a VW place. So I had hired him and I thought, okay, great, let's do this. Let's make a run at it, right? And we were doing good. Like I was making more money, like or you know, the gross was more like because we had three people instead of one, you know, and it's really a math problem, right? Like you're getting more, even if it's not completely 100% effective, like it's still a math problem. You're getting more output. It's fine. We were making more money. And that's when he said, hey, go put it away. Like start putting X amount. I think I was doing like 5%. I wasn't even doing that much. I mean, maybe 10
Okay.
towards the end, but
Yep. Yep.
so we went through that next spring, summer, and then they wanted me to go to Shop Hackers, which was a big deal for Shop Fix, like the once a year thing where everybody
Hmm.
comes. I didn't want to go, scared of planes. I hated the whole idea of leaving Montana to go somewhere. I just thought we could do Zoom. Why do I need to do this? You know, and just didn't get it. Didn't understand. My coach called a bunch of people, like the groups, like we call them tribes. Bunch of people from my tribe were I mean, I get all these phone calls from like back east, and they're like, "You gotta go, you just gotta do it." And I kept thinking, like, "Dude, is this a cult? Like, why? Like, it's weird, right?" Like, and I just didn't understand why they were like trying to get me to do something so bad. And then I
Yeah.
remember Aaron Stokes sent me a text message, and he said, "Hey, uh, I want you to come to this. I think it's important for you to grow or whatever." And he's like, you know, I don't remember verbatim, it was something like that. And I said, you know, I don't really like planes. He's like, you know, plane travel is safe. Like it's, you know, people do it every day. And I said, well, I don't really have the money here. And like, that's, you know, it's kind of a lot. It's going to cost me like 3 grand or whatever, you know? And he was just like, hey, listen, he's like, come down to this thing. And if you don't find any value, come find me Sunday night on the floor of the hotel. I'll write you a check for your expenses. Because like, I believe that much into this, like that you're going to get something out of it. And I just thought, that's crazy, you know? And I told my wife, like, I gotta go see what it's about, you know? I gotta go see. And, like, I've never had anybody say that to me, you know? Like, and so it was weird. And I think at this time I had moved into like, the next level in the group, kind of like the more expensive one. But then I'm getting like, I think I was getting weekly coaching meetings. So I was getting more like attention and which was good. I needed that, you know? And then after a while, no, I moved on to my current coach, and his name's Phil Webster. And yeah, he was, and Phil was very different. You know, Phil was like, "Hey, man, you're gonna be in my group. You got to come to conferences. That's part of the deal." And I'd like, I remember thinking, like, I got off the phone with our Zoom with him, and my wife was there, and I said, "Who is this guy to tell me what to do? I can do whatever I want. I'm an adult. Like, I don't have to get on a plane and go anywhere." I remember like the whole thing, but Aaron is what changed.
You hear that? That's your ego calling.
Oh,
That's your ego knocking again.
for sure. Aaron is what changed it. That text message changed my life, you know? So,
Okay. All right. Now that's something he would do a lot. Is reach out on
yeah.
individuals, and that's pretty cool. The Phil, you said Phil Webster is your current coach.
Yeah, Phil's my current
How long have
coach.
you been with? How long has he been
Oh,
coaching?
God. Since that year, I think it was 20,
A year and a half now? 2 years?
it's 24, the summer of 24.
24. All right.
He
So a
was,
year and a half. Okay.
yeah, and
Nice.
I had only went with him, you know, I left Fred because they have like a private Facebook group, and I found a guy that was 2 hours away in Montana. And he kind of was like pretty instrumental, and he owns a shop in Great Falls. And so, you know, he was like, hey, he would come down and give me a hard time, you know, like, hey, he'd come to Costco basically. So, you know, there's a Costco here, but not in his town. And he would be like, hey, like, why do you have all these pinball machines? I used to get a lot of shit for having pinball machines in my side, you know, this next
I'm
day.
still wondering what you did with all those pinball machines.
Dude, they're all in storage, believe it or not. Yeah.
Oh, you still have them? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a lot of games. Yeah. It was kind of like a side hobby. And then I have some around town and breweries and stuff. It's like, but nothing crazy. It's more of a distraction than like a real
All right.
business. But
Gotcha. No, there's
yeah,
no money in pinballs.
yeah, I don't want to go
Can't
all
imagine
into
it.
that. But yeah, I have like a side hustle with pinball machines. So anyway, but
That's not a hustle. That's a hobby.
yeah,
I mean, like I said, I I'm a little bit familiar, very little
Yeah.
familiar with the pinball machines world, and it's
I'm still into it,
yeah.
man. I went to that conference. I took my son, he's 15, and like we found some place like hole in the wall in Tennessee that has like 400 games, and we were just in there like half a day, like playing video games. It's like I came in like
All right, so
yeah,
so the last conference you took your son?
yeah. So I've been taking it. I think that was his fourth or fifth conference because
Okay.
I felt like the information was so good. Like I remember telling my wife, like, if I knew this stuff in my 20s or like earlier, I would crush it, like absolutely crush the market where I'm at.
That's interesting.
And so I
Yeah.
told him, like, I said, it doesn't cost me anything. It costs me a plane ticket and I'm already staying in it's not a huge deal. And yeah, like, Aaron loved Jeff, and my son's name's Jeff. And yeah, he likes it. He goes in, he gets to hang out with multimillionaires, and guys that have, 3 or 4 shops and they all pour into him. It's great. Like he gets tons of I feel like sometimes he would be getting more attention than me. Like he'd even walk up through the hallways and they'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Jeff?" And I'm over there like,
That's funny.
"What the fuck?" Like,
You know what?
yeah, it's weird.
That just I don't know, that I'm thinking about that conversation where we were talking about wanting more for our kids, right, than we had, and a lot of times we get trapped into thinking that that just means more doors, more money, more this, but it's no, it's more, uh, it's more exposure to knowledge, it's more exposure to, uh, experiences, it's more exposure to, it not skipping the refinement, but maybe making the refinement process easier. Like, hopefully, he'll be able to run a successful shop one day if that's what he wants to do, without having to deliver pizzas at night.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be
Right.
right. Like, and
Right.
you know, we don't know what that plan is. I know they talk about succession plans and, whatever. I feel like I'm way far away from that, so I don't really I'm focusing my drive more on growth still, but yeah, it's weird, and I don't know what he's gonna do. He says he wants to be a shop owner. I don't know. He really liked Aaron, so I think that's probably in his path right now, but if it's not, that's fine too. I mean, but learning about business isn't just like automotive stuff. I just came from this morning. I was at a like little local group, and there are all kinds of people. Like one guy owns a healthcare place or whatever. Like we're all dealing with the same issues, the same leadership stuff, the same you know employee stuff, whatever. It's business is business. It doesn't have to be. I think you can learn business from other places too. It doesn't. There's just like nuggets everywhere, right? Like, and I'm trying to
Okay.
find them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll take, I'll go
No,
to a local group or
I
I'll go to
agree with
somewhere else.
that. But I also think there's a lot of value in industry specific coaches.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I couldn't have got where I'm at without it. And I think coaching's where it's at. I think personal development's where it's at. Like mm, to go back to ego, like you got to let go of a lot of that stuff. I used to like want to fight people on 1-star review. You know what I mean? You take it personally, and you're like, screw that person or whatever. But that's not how it is. You have to like learn to hold back, like, and let go of your ego. Maybe there's some truth into what they said. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something you didn't do right, or even
Hmm.
I told some of my employees like,
Well, we just had a panel discussion in I want to say I'll have to double check what the episode number was. I'll do that and say that in a moment. But um, we actually were talking specifically about how to handle those bad reviews. But you make a really nice point about it, right? Is that the bad reviews, it feels personal, but the reality is it's an opportunity for your growth potentially. Sometimes it's just people complaining because people complain, right? But sometimes it was episode 77, by the way. But sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, what's the expression? There's like 4 sides or 2 sides to every story. I don't know, 20 sides. I don't know what it is, right? The point is there might be a nugget of truth, like you just suggested, in there, even if it's a rant. What can I do better to improve? How do I let the public know that I care and I'm going to be working on this and I care about this person? as well, right? Even if they are a wee bit crazy.
Yeah, my grandfather used to say, like, you could fight the whole world or kick it in its ass or something, you'll just end up tired. I don't know, something like that, but you get the point, right? Like you can
Yeah.
fight everybody, but I mean, you can't fight everybody, right? Like you just end up getting tired
No.
and wasting a lot of mental space on that. I've been told plenty of times, like, let go of your ego and focus on making money. That's what your job is, and like the other stuff and like is whatever, you know. And of course, I care about my reputation and things like that, but like, you know, going to battle with somebody online about something, it's not worth it, you know? And I used to do that, man. I'd engage with other shop owners and, you know, I'd say things that probably not appropriate and, you know, but hanging out with, you know, I don't know. I don't want to talk about all his like things, but like he used to say, like, you're the sum of the, you know, 5 people you hang out with. And when I'm hanging out with people that are better than me, that rubs off, right? Like those people pour into me and they're like, Kyle, you're wasting a lot of time and mental space on, you know, why are you fighting with somebody online in the auto shop owners group? You know what I mean? Or whatever, right? And there's a lot of, dude, I'm guilty, right? Like, I haven't been doing that for a while, but like, I mean, I've gotten into it with
Excuse me.
Levi on there. I've gotten into it with like, you know, people that do podcasts from the industry. And, you know, I guess there's more than one way to run a business too. And of course, I like Aaron's way, right? Because that's who I learned from. But like, you know, I got to scroll on, man. I'm telling you, like, I go on there, and dude's doing a podcast where he's walking in his backyard or whatever, and he's just like, flat rate's the devil, you know. And I'm just like moving on. Like, I can't engage in these things, you know what I mean? And like, I love the guy to death. Like, there's nothing wrong with him. I don't have any ill will towards him, but like, I don't agree with it.
So how are you paying your employees? Is it a flat rate?
We'll get into it. So I knew that was gonna come up. Uh, yeah, yeah, no,
You brought it up.
so, and I'll tell you why. I paid my guys flat rate, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
I had a guy that was really slow, and was this me not holding him accountable? Maybe. I was still kind of young in the, you know, hiring
Mhm.
phase or whatever,
Mhm.
growth phase, but I hired a guy. I paid him 167 hours for the month, and he produced 66 build hours. So, like, I don't remember how much it was. I think I had done the math. It was like, you know, I'd lost like $21,000. So I don't know, something crazy. And I was
Crazy.
thinking, and that's me timesing those missing hours by our labor rate, which probably is a,
Right. No, I understand. Yep.
you know, probably wasn't the greatest math, but like in my mind, I thought, wow, dude, like I lost 21,000 and this guy doesn't even care, you know, like when I brought it up to him, he got defensive. It was just like, well, I should be making more. I mean, he literally told me like I should be making more an hour than that. And I'm like, dude, if the mothership doesn't make the money, like we can't afford to pay. Like it's a losing proposition. I can't move forward on this. And you know, it was weird. It was almost like wage theft. It was so bad the other way that I was just like, wow, you know. And then the coaches were like, so why aren't you paying flat rate? Like, you know, they have to own a piece of it too. Like you can't just, you know, run your business into the ground and you know, the guy just and that guy, to be honest, wasn't very motivated, whatever. You know,
Is he still with you?
no,
Did he turn it around?
no,
Okay.
God, no. I had to get rid of him, you
Okay.
know, and I hate to say that. Like I liked the guy. I thought he was a great mechanic, you know, but unfortunately, like efficiency wasn't his strong suit, you know. He would spend 4 hours on an hour job and that's just how it was. And was he doing it right most of the time? Like, yeah, man, he did a good job, you know? He would find weird problems and fix them, but he would go down rabbit holes that we just couldn't afford to, like, you know, pursue
Yeah.
with them. And so, yeah, it kind of sucks, you know? You got to find,
So let me ask you this: if you were trying to solve for that, I mean, your solution in the end was you had to let him go, and it
yeah,
was the right thing to do for the business. There's no
yeah,
doubt in my mind about that. But like, how could have you potentially? Let's kick this around.
yeah,
You have an employee like that. Like, how do you help them see the light of day? How do you help them understand that they need to be profitable and yet also be able to fix those weird problems? That sounds like a
yeah.
valuable thing.
Well, it's got to be, you know, I think, I mean, I mean, just in general, I think you got to set the expectation and hold people accountable, right? Like, hey, this is where we need to be, and if it's not that way, then we need to set them aside and hold them accountable and have an action plan going forward. And you know, if that's not happening, then we need to figure it out. Like once in a while, going off shane on something is probably part of our industry, right? Like we get a weird problem, whatever, like once in a while. I'm okay with that. If we can absorb that, but I can't do it. Yeah, and that's what was happening, And so, unfortunately that's how it is. And then the other side of flat rate they never talk about is like I feel like I mean, you're limiting someone's potential if they're a good tech and they can turn more hours than what you're paying them for, like, or they could beat flat rate times without cutting corners. I think they use the cutting corners excuse to like on this deal, but like if they, I was able to do it. I mean, if I could do a timing bill and a water pump in an hour and a half and not have a comeback and everything's good, then am I cutting corners or am I just really good at that one job? I mean, I think I mean, I've done thousands of them. It's like, I don't even have to think, right? Like it's almost like second nature to me. I could be having a conversation in my head or thinking about some other stuff while I'm doing it and still do it in an hour and a half and go to the next one. So I don't always being a tech and hearing some of those arguments against flat rate because they always bring up the cutting corners thing or they're not doing a good job, like, because they're going trying to be fast or whatever. Can that be a problem? Yeah, for sure. But like, is there also another side of the coin where someone's just really good at doing something? I think that's also possible, right? So it's a tricky deal, right? But like, I feel like it's the best way in my place and how I do things, and I don't want to
So what
limit
was
guys.
it like? You went for how many employees did you have
Okay.
when you switched to flat rate, and what was the pushback on the at that change?
I had 3 at the time.
Okay,
Everybody,
and did you do like a switch? You're all
yeah,
flat rate Monday morning.
yeah,
Congratulations,
pretty
you get to
much.
make more money if you're good.
I gave him a little bit of like, I think we gave him like a month or maybe a couple weeks. I can't remember. Don't quote me on it. But I think there was a transition period where I'm like, hey, we're gonna start looking at numbers and see where you're at and kind of go from there. The other thing I did, which I thought was completely fair, was and just whatever, I'm biased, I guess, but like I gave him more money an hour. Like, hey, I'm gonna pay you this way, but we're also gonna jump you from this price or this hourly rate to this hourly rate, right? Like we're gonna do more for you an hour because I think it's a hard transition. I want to make sure you're not feeling, I want to kind of, there's a lot of feelings in there, right? And I want to make sure that these guys get paid and they're feeling good about it. It's not just like a culture shock overnight. So we did that. We kind of talked about.
No, I don't understand. So month one, you make the announcement. This is the direction we're headed,
Yep.
and you're no longer going to be hourly.
Uh-huh.
You're now going to be flat rate, but we're going to do it in stages. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, like what we did was say, hey, it's kind of like how I onboard service writers now, right? I say, hey, I'm going to pay you this much an hour for the time that you're clocked in, and then I'm going to give you 2% of GP after, whatever. There's right, and then I tell them like, I want 100% commission for people that are in sales too, because I feel like it helps them get to our goals, right? And I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna do it this way. And then what we do is like that last month or whatever, we start looking at it like, hey, this is what you would have made if you were 10% commission off GP versus
All right. So this is kind of like your onboarding piece,
yeah,
right? Like it's a 1 or 2 or actually, let me ask you, how many months do you go with that?
usually 90 days on service writers. And
All right.
I
So
can
you
tell you
make the
now,
announcement.
I've never had
Yeah. So
I've never had one want to keep the hourly in 2%.
that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
Is you show them that by the end of their period of their 90 days or 30
Yep.
days,
And
how much they can make otherwise. And so to make this change, you actually made it harder for yourself for the technicians because you actually increased their rate initially,
yeah,
and then at the end you said you can make even more on flat rate, and here's how. Here are the jobs you did last month, and here's how much you would have been paid.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like, hey
Okay.
man, I'm gonna compensate you with a better hourly rate, but we're gonna be flat rate. So like, I guess we're changing the way we do things, but like, we're gonna give you a bump. And that will kind of help a little bit in the transition. Is the way I thought about it. Is it right? I don't know. They seem to be okay with it. It was fine. Like the other guy just yeah, yeah. There was only like two of them. I mean, it was a service writer and two techs. So like one did really well, like he excelled, and then the other one didn't do so well, right? It was weird. Like one took the ball and said, "Let's do it. Like, I want to give it my all." The other one's like, "This sucks and I don't like it." And then he ended up leaving for another. It wasn't because of that, but like, I think I can't remember. I don't know. He was just unhappy, and I think I went to conference one time and he called in every day I was gone, which sucked because it killed our shop for that one, And so I came back and had a talk with him, and he was just like, "I'm just not feeling it. I don't like this." And not just the flat rate, but he just didn't like being held accountable, I think. And that happens, man. When you hold people accountable, sometimes people just don't want to be held accountable. And he thought he could go get his old job back and do better. So I said, I wished him luck. And we paid him and off he went, so it's just kind of how it is. But I hate that. It's the worst part of my job to, I hate holding people accountable, and I hate firing people. It's the worst, but it's, unfortunately, that happens. Well, all I was
And
saying
so,
was
but
it's not a
I'm
good
back.
part of the job to have to fire somebody or hold them accountable. Sometimes it
No,
sucks,
no, it's not.
but yeah,
Uh,
anyway, but you have to,
um,
it's
and you've replaced those. You replaced him since then. You've replaced,
yeah, yeah. We have,
and how many? Yeah. So you also had to hire some people because you're much bigger now than you
oh
were
yeah, yeah,
then.
yeah. And so part of being
Have you had any pushback from anybody that's been new from the flat rate perspective? Everyone loves it now.
no, no, not really. Most of them are like from dealers or from other shops that are flat rate, so nothing crazy. It's pretty standard. I think most shops in town pay flat rate. I mean, I could be wrong, but I know the dealers did, and a lot of these guys are from the dealers. So, in fact, I worked with a lot of these guys when I worked at the before I left. So,
Is that where you're finding most of them? Is that where you're
no,
finding most
not
of your
not
employees?
always, but like it's funny how when I was talking earlier about how things come first full circle. I mean, the guy that I worked next to back when I worked there is now my shop foreman, So like it's kind of weird, right? Like and like Aaron would talk about he said, when people start seeing you get traction, they're gonna want to join your team. I heard that the first time in a conference and I was just like, dude, nobody's wanting to join my team. Like I get dealership techs that I try to hire at the old shop and they didn't want to work, and I couldn't figure out why they ghost me, and I thought I don't know what's going on. I'm just not a good leader or whatever. I'm not a good interview, whatever the case may be. And then later I come to find out, like they were like, because your shop was disorganized, it was small. We figured we couldn't make money there. It was kind of like what another guy told me later. And I thought, well, that's fair, like I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And, whatever. I was looking at big guys in town that, everybody knows who these guys are and they didn't want to work for me because, the shop was too small and it was just, it wasn't a good fit. And I didn't know it. And so it was weird. But what happened was when we ended up moving into this big shop, I mean, I literally signed the ink wasn't dry on the lease, and I was getting text message from people like, "Hey, did you sign a lease at that place? Like, I want to come work for you. Can I come talk to you?"
Oh,
Means
really?
same day, yeah. So that what Aaron had said happened, which was weird. Like I thought Aaron was full of shit sometimes. To be honest, I mean, everyone's gonna see this or whatever, but I can tell you about Aaron. I used to think like, what is this guy's angle, right? Because I used to be a cop. I was very skeptical. I didn't understand, and I think I told you this to you before in a previous conversation, but like I had talked to him once and I said, he goes, I just want to help everybody. And I thought, okay, but you're charging me every month. Like,
Right.
like that must be your angle, right? And he was like, if I didn't charge you for it, you wouldn't value it. And I thought, holy shit, like it blew my mind when he told me that, right? And I'm like, wow, like, yeah, I didn't think about that, right? But it's true. If you get something for free, you don't really care, right? Like, whatever, you get napkins with your, hamburger or whatever, you don't really care. But if if they were charging you for them, you'd probably care more about them, or it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably a bad analogy, but
I guess it's a bad analogy because I'd be upset about the hamburgers. I'd be upset about that paying for the napkins, right? I'm sorry. I'd be like, increase the price of the hamburger and allow me to take the napkins. But even still, though, I'm still buying something, and that's why it does fit, right? It's I'm still putting out there for for something, and I'm expecting the napkins. I mean, yeah. So that's why it works.
yeah, and I didn't see that, right? And so, And part of the thing, like after Aaron passed, is I see, I used to think like, oh, I used to joke around a lot. Even I'd go on his stuff, or like he'd make a comment on Facebook, and I'd be like, he'd be talking about like how we need to help people and like bring up the industry and stuff, and I'd be like, I'm just here for the Porsche, and like I feel bad now about the comments. I was joking, sort of. I did want a Porsche, but like, you know, yeah, I bought a 911 turbo, so like an old one though. I didn't buy a new one, so I was trying to be
All right.
free.
But all right, so go back to the comments. You were there for the comments. You were there having fun with the comments, but now
Yeah, and
you
Aaron
kind of
was
get it.
very gracious. Aaron would never single you out or embarrass you or anything like that. I feel like he was very good at that. Um, he just, you would figure it out for yourself, right? Like, or you wouldn't, I guess. I don't know. I did. I saw when Aaron passed, I saw all the people that he impacted their lives, right? Like, that was a big deal to me. I used to think the money was the pursuit. This is why we do this, right? Like, oh, I want to make a ton of money. Like, I look up to Aaron because Aaron and me were the same age. And like, we started out in bad circumstance, right? Like, we had traumatic childhoods or whatever. And I saw him as like, that dude made it, And so to me, that was like the biggest draw for Aaron. And he's just, he knows how to talk, and it's great, right? But like, I saw him as like, that dude made it. I could make it too, and it changed my mindset. And I thought, wow, like this guy is amazing, and like, it sounds weird, man. I'm telling you, the first conference I went to, I wore a Snap-on t-shirt and some Dickies shorts and a hat. And I'm walking around thinking like, you know, I don't need these guys, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm going around and I see Aaron, and he's wearing button-up shirts, and he's wearing a Rolex, and he's like, wearing nice clothes. And I thought like, wow, like I'm way underdressed here. I need to go to Nordstrom's, It's a funny story. Like I tell it all the time, but like I literally went down to Nordstrom's in the Green Hills Mall in Tennessee, and uh I went down there and I talked to a lady named Paula. She's still my lady. And I said, "Hey, Paula, I need help. Like, I don't have any business casual clothes, right? Like, I don't know anything about it." And we ended up making a relationship. And so, just so you know, like Nordstrom's is really good about that. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can have somebody help you find clothes. And so, it sounds
All
like a
right.
weird
Shout
thing.
out to Nordstrom's and
Paula,
Paula.
right?
All right.
Yeah.
In
Anyway,
Tennessee. Good stuff.
yeah, so she took care of me, and I started wearing button-up shirts. But my point is, like, I wouldn't probably wear this kind of stuff if I wasn't hanging around with people that were, and Aaron was a big part of that. And so, it's kind of crazy, but it's like I said, it rubs off, and I didn't even know that was happening. I just thought I'm out of place and whatever. And then I'm listening to him talk a year later, and he's talking about how perceptions and like how you hang out with better people, and then you start like copying them, and I just thought in my mind like, hmm, like that's weird. Like, I'm wearing slacks right now.
Button up shirts.
Yeah, it was really weird. So, but anyway, yeah, a lot of that, like I said, man, it changed my life, and not just like on a business level, but on a personal level, And I talked to him 2 weeks before he passed, and I told him thank you. I hadn't told him thank you. I, I guess I should tell a story, but like I was gonna make this jump from 3 bays to this shop, and this is 10 bays. Oh, well, it's 9 with an alignment lift, but whatever. Uh, but it's big. It's almost 10,000 square feet. It's like probably one of the biggest shops in Helena, right? And the opportunity had come up, and I wasn't ready. I didn't have enough saved up. I didn't have a good safety net. I didn't have employees. I didn't have all the things that he tells you need to have before you make a jump, right? And I reached out to him, and he was like the same thing, like, how much money do you have saved? Do you have employees? Like, blah, 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 And he was like, I'm worried for you. Like, you're not, you don't have all those things. You got to be really good at hiring and firing. You got to be really good at like how fast you can like turn that shop, like you can make it a functioning shop, right? And I remember him telling me, like, you got to close on Friday and open on Monday. There's no other choice. Hire as many people as you need, but that has to happen. You can't, because I was like, oh, Aaron, I'm just gonna get 4 bay, 4 lifts, and I'll just, I'll slowly do it over a month. It's my idea. And Aaron's like, absolutely not. You'll bleed yourself out. Like, don't do that. Like, you got to be able to do it fast. And I thought, okay. And he's like, can you do that kind of thing? And so it was a whole conversation we had. And, I sent him pictures and everything of the shop. And I wanted Aaron's opinion before I jumped, and he never said no, which was crazy. Like, yeah, but um, yeah, I went for it, and I mean, I doubled my gross like the next month, it was crazy. And like, was it chaotic? Yeah, it was nuts, right? Like, we had so many customers, I didn't know what to do. I pushed marketing, I did everything he told me, and it worked, and that was the crazy part. And so, but with that new stuff came a ton of new problems. I couldn't service the amount of people that we were getting. That's crazy. My worst fear was I wouldn't have customers. I had too many customers. We couldn't get to them, and we were handling them very poorly. And so that had to change. I had to get another service writer. We had to get more people. It was crazy, and we're still kind of I'm still putting SOPs in place and processes and doing the things that we need to do to get, a better shop at.
How are you going about doing that?
Oh God. I mean, we're pretty much, I mean,
Talking about the SOPs. How are you going about?
oh, like with those, we want to make the process the same every time. We want a consistent outcome, right? It's like a factory. I mean, it's kind of like a factory, right? So like, we want the cars to come in a certain way. We want to check them in a certain way. We want to get them to a certain way. We use the board system that they teach. We have kind of, I guess you put me on the spot a little bit. There's a process, right? There's a check-in process. There's
Right, right.
a whatever.
But what I'm asking is, how do you go about documenting it? How do
Oh,
you go about creating them? How do you go about distributing those processes to the team?
so I just got an idea at the last conference to do like a Google Drive for everybody so they can log anytime they want. But I was doing it on paper and putting it in a book. So I have like a front of the house book that has like, daily job descriptions, like how we process check-ins, checking in with customers, ordering parts, whatever. I have a vendor list that we order parts from, like stuff like that. But what I found is like in practice, people don't look at it as much as I thought they would. So that's an issue. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping the Google.
it's an issue that I don't know that there's here's the solution, right? I mean,
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, you gotta hold them accountable, I guess, is going back to that whole thing, like, I mean, here's the thing, like, you get what you tolerate, you know what I mean? If you tolerate them not.
I want you to write a 100-word essay on the XYZ SOP on
Yeah.
on how to
I mean,
check in
not like that,
customers,
but, like,
on how to relay bad news to customers.
yeah.
Give me a 100-word essay.
But, like, at a certain point, I guess it's you have to make clear expectations of what you want. I learned that, the last 6 months or 9 months or whatever.
Hey, I just had an idea.
Yeah.
I just had an idea on how to get the team. It just came into my head as far as how to get the team to be more involved. Let me know if you like this idea or if this is a bad idea. I have no idea if this is a good idea. You ready for this? All right. So let's say you've got 5 documents out there, 5 SUPs, 5 documents in the Google Drive. Okay. I want you to assign one of those documents to a particular person, and you tell them that you need them to create a video to coincide with the words that are in the document. If they want to be boring, they can just read it, or they can actually do it while holding their selfie phone up while doing that piece of whatever that transaction is, whatever that thing is. And then there's a video to correspond, because I think that people would prefer to watch videos over read a Google Drive document. And so having that video, augmenting it and making them produce the video,
Ugh,
make sure that they read
I
it.
see what you're doing there. If you make them do the video, they're buying into it. I get it. But, like, I've heard of this before, and there's guys that are actually doing it. They're getting so big, though, I think that is why they're doing videos, because 'cause they're doing multiple stores or whatever. Like, yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably not great on video. I'm not Aaron Stutz.
I'm telling you to not do any videos.
Oh,
You wrote it.
oh, have them do it. Yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah.
the employees, to make the way to make sure that they read it is that you give them the document and say, I need you to make a video of this process.
Okay, yeah.
And then they make the video of the process following your written instruction. It's them on camera, not you.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean, it's like you said, I don't know, I do less reading and probably more YouTubing now than I did before.
Doesn't everybody?
read books, but it's
You go younger than us, it's definitely doing it that way, right? Like that's all they're doing.
I mean, there was some stuff at the sheriff's office too. I think they're using like kind of like a version of like Training or whatever, where they kind of like it's on your phone, and they'd have like scenario kind of training, and you'd answer the question, and it would tell you why. I don't know, whatever. I can't remember what it was called. It was like a police like specific one, but it sounds like Training or one of those companies that's coming out where they have like an app or whatever. It's fine. I don't know. We've thought about that. I definitely know the book doesn't work as good as I thought. And I thought I was like super cool. Like I went through Goldman Sachs's program and they're like, put all
Right.
the expectations on paper and make sure they're
Right.
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 So I printed it all out and I put it
So
on
that
it.
nobody reads
I
it.
used ChatGPT and I had all the stuff figured out and I printed it and put it in a binder and like, yeah. And I've asked the question 100 times already from different service writers, like, "Hey, did you look in the book?" "Oh yeah, I didn't look in the book." It's like, okay,
No.
so like everything's in that book.
Did you look on the Google Drive folder? No.
Oh,
And like again, that's probably accountability management piece right there too, right? Like don't you may ask me, but not until after you've actually looked at the Google Drive folder. But even still though, like again, my idea, like you don't necessarily even have to like the video. Like if the video is lousy, that's fine. Make another employee do the same video. I don't know, like cycle through them, like make them appropriate job specific. Like like your service writer is not going to be doing the video on how to install a water pump, but right. I mean, like you're going to make them job specific, but over time, you
I mean,
could potentially have a collection of videos that people will prefer to watch, but the real goal was to make sure that your team was paying attention to the processes that you're trying to implement.
yeah. I mean, I think
Instead of writing a 100-word essay, make a video.
yeah. Well, yeah. I think I think it would probably work. I mean, I guess it's interesting. I've never heard it broken down that far, but I just heard I'm
I
making
have no idea.
videos of myself. But
No idea. It just popped into my head. I have no idea if it would actually work. Listen, if you're listening, Kyle, if you try it, I want to hear back from you. And if you're listening to this episode, I want to hear from you if you try something like that. If you have a different way of making sure that your employees read all the standard operating procedures, I'm interested in hearing from you. And you can go out to the Facebook group. You can go out to our website, whatever you want to do. The Facebook group on is for the Garage Grit podcast. You can go check that out. It's a group that's a private group just for people who are listening to the show and are also owners. And we're going to try to continue the conversation from these episodes there. But you can also just jump out to addy.me/join panel. That's addi.me/join panel. And you can fill out your information and I'll talk to you. I'll reach out and I'll find out how you've actually made people actually pay attention to your operating procedures, because I think the majority of people don't.
yeah, it's definitely an issue. I mean, it's I think it's part of it. I mean, sometimes you just got to go over things more than once. I don't know. We've been doing some trainings and stuff on Wednesdays and trying to like refresh them, I guess, in a certain aspect, but yeah,
So you're just reviewing the procedures during those
yeah.
weekly
I
meetings.
mean, we do daily.
Okay.
We do a daily like morning meeting for 15 minutes. So we go over like what didn't work the day before, what's on the appointment list, things like that. But but yeah, we typically take care of those problems then. Like if there's something that happened or whatever, and it could be something dumb. It's like, yeah, so and so installed the wrong oil filter. We had to go back and fix that, or I don't know. Like I'm just making stuff up right now, right? But like stuff happens, or hey, we didn't communicate well yesterday with so and so, or like we need to do a better job at that, or we have kind of an internal. I mean, it's nothing fancy. It's just like an internal group that we communicate on our phones. So, we kind of go back and forth there. And but
No, wait. What do you have internally? Like, are you like doing like Slack or something?
no,
Like that?
nothing crazy like that. It's just regular like Messenger, but it's like a group, like a text group. So
So it's just text messages,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you've got the group going.
and that
Okay.
and that seems to work pretty well. I've heard of Slack too, and like I don't know, I'm probably getting old, and I don't understand all that, but I've heard that mentioned before. But yeah, we've been using the regular like text group or whatever. Seems to work.
I was talking to a shop just the other day, and I was like, "What? He uses walkie-talkies."
Oh, we have those too. We got some.
Wait, you also use
Yeah,
walkie-talkies to
here's one right here.
around your
Here you
shop?
go.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, do we use it consistently? Probably not. But you know, it was good for like talking to the manager, or whatever. But typically, I don't think we've used them probably as much as we should have or we could, I guess. But
Well, you could probably put in the Google Drive when you're supposed to use them
yeah, they have a lot
for nobody to
too.
read.
Like we pick up like construction workers talking, and you're like, "Yeah, Mike, drop the concrete over here," and you're like, "Who's this?" You know what I mean? It just randomly pops up on there, and so
That's funny.
we have to change the channel
Okay.
or whatever, or do whatever we got to do. But yeah, it's been okay. We've used it in the past. It seems to work.
Well, we're planning on doing a topic for May, and I mean, I'm just starting to think about it. So I haven't fully wrapped my mind around this. But one of the possible topics for our May 2026 is managing or how to improve the internal communication.
Well, I mean, that'd be a great topic, I think. I mean, I've struggled with that myself. And, every time someone leaves our group, we got to like restart we can't just like take that one person off to like restart with another group and add everybody into that one. And it's kind of, and lately it seems like, I've had to hold it.
Hey, you fired me 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Why am I still getting these
Why are
text
you saying the water
messages?
pump's on the way from Napa? It's like, it's one of those things. But yeah. And like when God, it seems like lately just it's been that way. I mean, my manager let go of somebody the Friday that I took off for the last conference, and during the conference, another person got let go. And, but we're not willing to compromise like our expectations. We hold people accountable. And I hate to, it's not a bad thing. Like, it's good if we let people just run amok, like it's not going to work, and so I think being a good boss is you got to hold people accountable. And, I'm not saying just fire somebody, like work with them if you can, but, sometimes that's not possible. And, you just got to do the best you can. But, definitely, it's weird sometimes.
And you got to know when to work with them and when to
Yeah,
rip the Band-Aid off and move on, because you could line up a dozen shop owners and probably have 11 out of 12 stories about how they tried to work with the person for 9 months, 2 years at the detriment of their own business. And when you're hurting your own business, you're not just hurting your business, you're hurting the rest of your team.
yeah. And I mean, we had a guy, I want to talk about, I guess I'll keep it really general, but we had a guy that just, wouldn't, just couldn't, I don't know, we couldn't get it. Like just the basic stuff, like, yeah, it wasn't working, and it was a front of the house guy. And I kept trying to I kept trying to help and kept trying to work with the guy and pour into him. And I remember when it was finally at the point we couldn't do it we couldn't move forward, we told him that, and he was like relieved, like, I've been waiting for this. And I'm just like, why didn't I see that? Like in my mind, I thought I was trying to help him, but he was really waiting for me to do it. Like it was almost like, I don't know if he was self-sabotaging or what, but like, I took away a different perspective when that happened, and I thought, holy crap, like I didn't do a good job here. But I needed that experience and that pain to move forward to the next thing. And I'll tell you, the next guy that came, had really good on paper, really good interview, like everything was great. And it was like day one, like came in late, like didn't want to follow process. And like I give people grace, like, right? Oh, the train was in the way. Cool. Like no big deal. And then that day he wanted to go home early, and he fought me the whole day. Like, I don't want to write stuff up this way. And I came from a big shop, and this is how we did it, in this other shop in the city. And I'm like,
You should go back there.
yeah. And I'm like, look, man. And I finally, the next day came, it was 2 days. And the next day came, and he fought me the whole day. And I pulled him in the office of the manager, and I'm like, look, man, if you want to go open your own shop, and I hate to do this, right? It sounds kind of like I got an ego, but it wasn't. I was really trying to work with him. But I said, look, man, you want to do it your way, you can do that. But like, if you're going to stay with me and be on our team, there's a certain process that we do, and this is the way we're going to do it, And he assured me like everything's going to be good, whatever, like I'm on board, whatever. And he left and then called in the next day. And I was just like, that's it. Like, I I guess I could have moved forward some more to see where it'd go, but I didn't think it was good. And I remember I called up the manager and I was like, "Hey, dude, like I'm gonna let this guy go. Like I can see right now that he doesn't share our vision. He doesn't want to do our processes. Like there's no need to go forward." And I think I had talked to another person in my tribe about it, and he was like, "Hey, man, that guy's telling you he doesn't want to work for you. Believe him. Like believe him." And I'm like,
Good point.
okay, and it was
Yeah.
fine.
No, no. The reason he called out that third day was he didn't want to quit. He wanted the safety net of having
Yeah,
a paycheck somewhere while he was looking
yep.
somewhere else.
And I don't know, I
So
don't know if that's true, but like, yeah, it certainly, seems like it. And I just,
it's at least feasible. It's at least reasonable
yeah,
to think that, right?
but the
I mean, maybe he
difference,
was sick, but not like
I guess what I'm trying to make a point here for people watching is like the difference or listening is the difference between the first guy and the second guy was like 180, like that first guy, I tried to hold on to him. I don't want him to quit. I want him to, he can be good. I know he can do it. And then, I was like trying to trying to pour into him when it clearly was not working. And I should have pulled the cord and said no. And the second guy, I knew immediately, like, this guy doesn't share our values and our vision. Like, he's out. Like, I can't do it. Right. And that's probably part of my personal growth, right, in this department. But like, that's what happened. And I feel bad. Like, I don't want to fire somebody, whatever. I think you got another job somewhere else. But like, I feel bad. Like, it's not a personal thing. I don't hate the guy. I wish the best for him. He saw me at Costco and mean mugged me. Like, it's weird. I just like, I don't know, whatever, just mind my own business. But like, I don't want anybody to have any ill will towards me or, I like to leave things in a good way. And maybe that, I don't think he feels that way, but I, I'm trying to help him actually. Like, I want him to see that, like learn from that. Like, don't come into a shop and start trying to run the place the first day and, probably come on time and don't call in like on the third day. I don't know. Like,
it's entirely possible that in 10 years he'll say my ego got in the way.
I think there's probably a lot of ego with that guy, and I hate to say it, like I got no ill will though towards him. I don't want to talk bad about him, but I think we're all on different paths, right? Like Kyle from 20 years ago was a complete asshole, like it was not bad.
Yes, and that was kind of my
Yeah,
point.
it's
Was
not,
that
I mean, the
maybe in
cusp.
10, 20 years from now,
Yeah.
he'll have started a shop and he'll realize what it was for what it was.
And it's great to be able to look back and be like, man, I was, terrible like as an employee, right? But it gives me insight today. And, I probably, and I hate to, do the what if thing, but like, I think if I would have been working on personal development 20 years ago, I would be in a way better place than I'm probably at now, or I would have
Yeah.
got there faster, I guess.
Right.
But
Right.
you can't do
And so if you're listening to this, no, but if you're listening to this, the time is now.
Yeah.
Right. The time is like, don't wait 5 more years.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's almost like investing. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to wait until you're 50 to start investing. You'd rather start investing when you're like, 12. Right. I mean, like, that's the key, right?
But
Get started early.
you gotta be willing to
And,
do that though, right? Like how many people will actually have that conversation with themselves and be like, or do they blame someone else or try to dodge the accountability? Like you gotta be accountable to yourself sometimes, and be like, hey, I did that in a bad way and I need to work on this. And part of that Goldman Sachs thing, we did a personality test and I'm expressive, right? And expressive personalities in business get very frustrated and they like attack people if things aren't going right, right? I'm like that. I remember like taking the test, thinking like, this is all mumbo jumbo, like it doesn't matter. I'll just do it because it's part of the program. And then I read the results like, it's like, damn, I remember like going down to the Napa and like slamming like brake rotors on the table and being like, you got to screw this up. And I like wanting to fight people, like throw hands over like some brake parts and, and I mean, I have the best Napa rep. I can tell you right now, like he was there from that day that I wanted to start the account at the dealer to now. And he could probably tell you I'm a whole different person than before. Yeah, still my Napa rep. His name's Steve Coe, and he works here in Helena. And the guy's amazing. Like he's been with me since the beginning. And he was the first. I remember, man, this guy was like, you need a service management system. Like I was handwriting ROs. like, I don't need to spend $200 to buy an invoice. He's like, I can just handwrite these. I'm getting these from Staples. Like, they're awesome, you know? And it's like auto repair. It looks like an old receipt book, you know? And then like he would be like, dude, I'm laughing because it's terrible, dude. Like, that's exactly how my attitude was. I didn't want to hear it. I knew everything. And all of
That's
us
so funny.
mechanics are like this. We're all control freaks. We're all screwed up. We all think,
Hold on. I just control enthusiasts.
yeah.
You don't have to put freak next to it. That's just not nice. Let's call yourselves control
I
enthusiasts.
think we're all the same. Like, I think we want to control the outcomes. We think we know everything.
True.
One of the biggest things I tell people that I talk to that are in the industry is I say, look, a good mechanic doesn't make a good business guy. Like, it's two hats, two different hats. And I remember Fred Young having a conversation in the beginning, and he was like, Kyle, you got to be a business owner or a mechanic, but you cannot be both. It's one or the two. And I still hear people, even on your podcast, I listened to a couple, the last couple weeks, that are still working in the business, and I think in my mind, like, man, they just haven't transitioned into the next part. And, I used to think that I would get very offended, like, oh, I'm a master tech and I'm the best and like whatever. And I'm going to continue to work in the shop and I'll just hire a service writer and I'll hire somebody and, whatever. It doesn't work. If you're not working on the business and you're in it, you can't work on it. It's the whole thing. And I had to.
I'll give you an exception. I'll give you a possible exception.
Yeah.
You ready?
Okay.
If you want to be a technician, if
Yeah.
that's what you want to be, but you also want to own the shop, then own it in name only and hire yourself a CEO.
Well, yeah, that would work. That would work. I get it.
That would work. And by the way, he's your boss or she's your boss.
Yeah.
Like, get ready for that.
Exactly, right?
That's how that's going to go down.
But, I remember arguing with Fred, like, there's no way. And this is my ego getting in the way, right? Like, I wouldn't listen. And that's the thing. In the very beginning, I took bits and pieces of what I thought was good from Aaron's, stuff and coaching. And then I implemented it poorly. And then it went all to crap. And I'd be like, I don't know what's wrong. And I cried to my coach, like, hey, I did what you said. But they're like, did you do the other thing? Did you do the other thing? Oh, well, no, I thought that was stupid. Like, well, like, what do you want? Like, and they're gracious, like they still stuck it out with me, but like,
I replaced the brakes. I didn't put rotors on.
Yeah.
I didn't bother to put the rotor. I don't know why it
I used
doesn't
to
work.
push back on the dumbest things. You like mailers, right? And I'd cry. I remember calling Fred in like February, like, Fred, I got no cars and I got 2 guys I got to feed. And, I'm crying on the phone, not crying, but like, I'm upset. Yeah. And I'm like venting, right? And Fred's like, well, did you do the mailers? Well, nobody reads the mailers, Fred. That's like an old boomer thing. Nobody reads those, Dude, I could go down right now and come back up here to this video camera and show you a stack of mailers so big you wouldn't believe it. Like if I, but I didn't know, right? And they always say that, like, you don't know what you don't know in the group, and that's exactly what happened. Like I just didn't do what he told me to do, and
So funny.
so it's weird, right? But then I started doing it, and I'd see traction, and then it took a little bit of try do something, see traction. Okay, maybe this is good. So now I got to a point where my wife was like, if Aaron Stokes told you to jump off a bridge, you'd probably do it. And then I told my coach that one time, and he said, but you'd probably fall into a pile of money to catch your fall. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, probably. But it turned into that. And the shift in my head was so crazy that like, I almost feel like they've had to slow me down because I'll do stupid stuff. Like I'll go start a 3-shot, like that was my next thing is like, and the ego still there. Like I had a coach tell me, he's like a coach of the coaches, I guess. And we had a phone call and I felt like I'm being slowed down. Because like, I would say, I want to start a second shop or whatever. And they'd be like, well, be careful, they'd, try to steer me, like keep me safe, you know what I mean? So to speak. And, I had a talk with him and he's just like, hey man, like, you've got a whole nother shop in your shop that's untapped. You don't have all the processes in place. You don't, he pointed out all the little things that I was like ignoring. And I'm thinking in my head, 2 shops better than 1 shop, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And I had to swallow a lot of crow on that call. And like, I got off, it affected me for weeks, man. Like, not on a confidence level, but like, I thought about it. He planted these seeds where I was like, damn, dude, like, he's right. Like, my ego's huge, I need to like slow down a little bit and think about this. And so now I'm more focused on what he told me to focus on, right? Like I'm more focused on the processes, SOPs, getting the right people in the right seats. There's all important things to get. I want this place to be efficient as it can. And for
Right.
us,
He wasn't saying don't open a second shop. He was saying first take
yeah,
care of your
yeah, yeah.
uh
Well,
make your own
he's a
bed.
tough one.
What's the express? What is the Jordan Peterson, right? Like, don't fix the world, make your own. Start by making your own bed, or
Yeah,
something to that effect, right? It's a similar type of mindset in that before you open up a second shop, make sure that you got this one,
yeah.
you know,
It
working.
was tough to hear, right? Like I'm
Okay,
still kind of scared of the guy. Like I see him at the conference, I didn't really say hi. I just, like, because it's not a good feeling to get told all your, like, faults, or where you're not seeing your blind spots. Like it's rough, especially when you think you're. I think what happened was, man, it happened so quick, and I got and that's the thing too. I don't know if it was luck or my skill level, right, as a business owner. I don't know. It might have been both. It might have been a little bit of both. I don't know, because like when I moved over here, everything changed for me. Like my income went up. The amount of cars we do. I mean, we're doing 300 cars a month. It's a lot different than doing 80 cars a month. It looks different. It feels different. There's a lot more issues. There's a lot more things that you have to figure out. But I thought I was on top of the world 6 months ago. I thought, like, man, this is awesome. Like, I could just go open another shop. This will be like, it'll happen again. I'll get that same feeling, right? It's almost like a drug. You're like, oh man, that feeling's awesome. I want to do that again. But, like, and that's the thing about being in a coaching group and why it's so important to be around other people that are better than you, or people that have gone through those experiences. It's like, hold on, Kyle, hold on. Let me put my hand on you.
it's interesting.
Yeah, like let me.
So being a part of a coaching group is going to hold you accountable.
Oh
Being
yeah,
a part of a coaching group is going to teach you what to do next, how to handle certain situations. But you're also saying that being a part of a coaching group is going to keep you grounded.
oh, for sure. Here's the thing about
Yeah.
coaching groups, right? I'm getting the experience of 1,200 people all at once, but I don't have to experience the pain, right? Like those guys all bring something to the table. Aaron Stokes like brought a ton to the table off of his pain. Like all his pain was out in the open for everybody to see. And that's what transformed him and made him and drove him to like where he got to, right? Like I mean, the guy's a multimillionaire. He's doing great. And so, you get to that. I mean, the reason I say that is because in that last conversation I had with him, I was interested in the other people. I know there's some big guys, Todd Hayes, Greg Sands, Greg Bunch. There's a lot of big guys that were around in the 90s and 2000s. And I think that they influenced a lot of our industry, right? And they're still around, but like, those guys are like the OGs of like our industry. And I wanted to talk to Aaron about that because I know he did tons of 20 groups and tons of, Aaron was in a couple coaching groups and he knew these guys personally. And so I was kind of like hoping he would elaborate about it or like tell me how, like what drove him to do that. It haunts me to this day because his answer was just pain. That was it. He didn't go into it. He just put pain in the message back to me, and it sucked because I was like, man, he's still holding on to this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he was successful, but like that still drove him. You know what I mean? Like he didn't, he told me that like right after that, he said something like, all those guys were mentors and they brought ingredients to the cake, but it was baked with my pain, like I used some analogy about baking a cake or something, but like the whole thing was like kind of weird. And I thought, man, that sucks. Like it sucks he's still holding on to that. You know what I mean? And like I felt bad for him almost. But we talked and it was a good talk. And, I thanked him. And the next day he posted, it kind of sucked. I wrote this big old text that I rambled on, and I didn't like spell check everything. And he posted it in one of the private group or whatever. And I'm so embarrassed. And I was like, man, I wish I would have done a better job at this, but yeah, I'm so glad that I reached out because 2 weeks later he passed, and I would have been upset that I didn't get a chance to tell him, but yeah, it was definitely, uh, kind of a weird deal, but I remember my wife telling me, like, "It's like 10:30 here, in Tennessee, it's like 11:30, let the man go to sleep," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to you later," and that was it, but it just kinda sucks, that was the kind of person he was though, man, like, I'm not in shop fix even, I'm probably like one of the smaller people. At least I don't think I'm big. I feel like I'm in the shadows of giants, you know, and he reached out to me and still gave me advice and still, you know, and I know he talks in a lot of his podcasts about getting so big or the, you know, it was getting so big he felt like he couldn't respond to everybody or, you know, it was getting harder to do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's so weird, you know, but the guy was, you know, like I said, he changed my life and, you know,
An inspiration.
he
And the legacy is that continued inspiration, I guess.
and you know, he told me he wanted to give the world more value than he took away from it. And that stuck in my head like the longest time. I, you know, like after everything happened and I saw the impact that he had on everybody, I definitely was thinking that, like, you know, I want to honor his legacy and I want to give back too. And, you know, it's not about the money. Like, you can't take that stuff with you. He had all that. You know what I mean? That's not what I remember Aaron for. I remember, you know, all the people that he touched that are on Facebook and on LinkedIn and everywhere else, you know, that are saying how much he changed their lives, you know. That's what I want to be remembered for. Like the cars and the Porsche is like cool, but it's not, you know, it's I guess it's weird because in my shit, even since he passed, my headspace has shifted a little bit. Like, I don't really care about buying a GT3 RS, you know what I mean, or a Nissan GTR, like, or Corvette or whatever it is. That this is the next shiny thing, right? Like, now I'm thinking, like, man, I want to help somebody else out, or you know, I want to try and make someone else's pain go away. So, kind of weird, man. It's a weird shit.
Or just or just lessen the pain, help them through
Yeah,
the pain,
I mean,
right? I like it. I like it. And so I'd like to stay in touch with you to learn how you're going to continue to explore that, how you're going to stay in touch, or help others. But yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to stay in touch with you so that I can keep hearing that journey of how you're helping others. And I think that's a message for all of us. I think we're supposed to live that way. I think we're supposed to, uh, we're not trying to be Mother Teresa's, right? We're not trying to be like, but or maybe we are, but it's okay to make money while you're helping other
yeah,
people as
and
well,
he talked
right?
about that, you know, being a tool and not so much as a, you know, I don't think we should be worshiping money or, you know, it's fine to make it. It's, you know, but it's a good tool.
Yeah.
It's a good tool to help people. You know, you know, you can't make changes if you can't write the checks, you know. That's what he used to talk about. So,
I like it.
yeah, it's kind of weird, but Um, yeah, it's different when you don't have any, I guess, like, you know, and I think that was me. I kept thinking like, oh, if I just had more money, it'd solve all my problems, but you know, it doesn't. It's
No,
not.
no, it just, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's a tool. It's a tool to be used. All right. Well, that's it. Listen, we've been chatting for. I feel like we could talk about. There was a couple of the things that we talked about prior on the phone that we never actually got to, and yet. No, don't be. We had a great conversation, and I kind of feel like I could talk to you for another hour, which is nice. There are times when these podcasts, like this is one of the longer episodes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. I hope people have listened all the way through so they could kind of hear how Aaron and how ShopFix and how that team really has helped you, not, especially in the last 3 years, right? Kind of change the course of what you're accomplishing there and what you're going to be accomplishing next over the next 3 years. So, I'm thankful for this conversation, Kyle. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Let me tie up this episode by saying like and subscribe, share it with others. Please feel free to tell others about the Garage Grid podcast because that's what we're doing here. We're trying to help as many shops as possible, and that's our by having these conversations. So thank you so much, Kyle.